Hi guys, this is Tina Monk, the author of the Soap Making Handbook Volume 1 and the creator of the e-course Masterclass Advanced Soap Formulations. They are available at my website, naturalsudsandmore.com. In this video, this is going to be added in the beginner soap making series, but it's for everybody, not just beginner. This is a lot of information every soap maker needs to know. It's very important to know how to correctly test your pH of your soaps. And this can work for all different types of things. It's not just soap in general, but since we're just going to focus on soap for this. And I want to go over just some basic things. If you aren't familiar with pH, it actually stands for the potential for hydrogen. And the normal pH scale is 0 to 14. Of course, 0 is the very acidic, 7 is neutral, and 14 is the very alkaline or base side, okay? And lye, which we know has a pH of 14. And water is neutral, around 7, okay? So I'm going to go over some different things that you can use to test your pH. And those will include pH, the strips, a meter, and for this, I have never tried this and I wanted to do it and show it to you. I'm actually going to show how to use the red cabbage. That is very simple to make the red cabbage solution. You are going to be doing like 3 or 4 cabbage leaves, just chop it up, and I actually used my Ninja blender and put it in there with a cup of distilled water. It needs to be distilled. For all of these tests, you need to make sure you're using distilled water. Okay, and then you just you blend it all up and then you strain it, and I used a mesh strainer with a coffee filter in there and just strained out the liquid. So this is what I ended up with. Just the purple liquid. And the red cabbage, if it's you put drops on it, it's supposed to turn blue if it's in the safe range, and green if it's lye heavy, okay? And I also a guy emailed me from India, and he told me that they use turmeric for testing pH. So this, of course, intrigued me so much. So I Googled how to make a turmeric solution for testing pH, and I use turmeric a lot. I know a lot of people use it to color their soaps as well, but it is also a pH indicator. So this is the turmeric solution, and what you do is you take a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, mix it in with about 1/4 cup of rubbing alcohol, and then you strain it just the same way that I did with the cabbage. I put it in a mesh strainer with a coffee filter, and then after it's all strained, and then you just add some, like 1/2 cup of distilled water to that, and then mix it up. So then you end up with the turmeric solution. So this will change color, you know, according to, you know, if it's acidic. Okay, so I'm going to show you all of that, and I'm really, you know, intrigued about how those two are going to work. If Soap Queen does have a blog about how to make the red cabbage solution too, if you want to check that out. Hopefully at some point I will write all of this up, and it will be in a file in my group. It's not currently right now, but at whatever time you're watching this, you may want to go check that out. My Facebook group is Soap Making and Business Coaching. There's a lot of information in the files, but eventually this will be added in there. I'm going to write all of this up. So why do we test the pH of soap? Okay, our skin, it's not acidic, but we have an acid mantle that is acidic. So in that acid mantle, it can get disrupted very, very easily, but it is very easily correctable. It corrects itself. And the example that I like to use about the acid mantle is when you go swimming and you're in the water for a long time and you come out and your fingers are all wrinkly. That's your acid mantle got very disrupted. But it doesn't hurt it. I mean, you know, if you pay attention to how much time it takes for your fingers to come back to normal, that's your acid mantle restoring, okay? So the pH of soap, it doesn't hurt. Like, the normal pH of soap is 8 to 10. That's where we want our natural soaps to be. And we don't need it to be neutral. We don't need it to be acidic for our skin to be happy. It can very, very easily bounce back from, you know, from the 8 to 10 pH. If you get above the 8 to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that's when you're going to have issues. So it's very important to, you know, to be able to test your pH of your soaps correctly, okay? And I do want to touch on this just a little bit. Sometimes if you make a soap that's just a little bit lye heavy, don't worry about it. Don't throw it out. Don't you know, don't waste it. Leave it sit for a while, because over time, even a soap that's a little bit lye heavy, the carbon dioxide in the air can react with it, and it can actually neutralize that. So your soap does become more mild over time, and that's just one of the things for you to think about. So if your soap is a little bit lye heavy, give it time. Okay, just let it cure a little bit longer. The normal cure time is, you know, 4 to 6 weeks, but that highly depends on if you gelled or if you didn't gel, and the oils in your recipe too. Okay, so I do have, in the beginner soap making series, I do go over all of that stuff in depth. Okay, if you need that, go back to that. Okay, even like sometimes you might come across a soap that you made that has some, what you might fear are lye pockets. You got some liquid that's oozing out of your soap. You can very easily take a test strip like this, and you can put it on the liquid that's oozing out of your soap. And that way you can quickly identify what the problem is. If it's lye that's coming out, you're going to need to rebatch. You know, if it's, you know, maybe sometimes it might just be fragrance oil or a little bit of oil or something like that coming out of your soap. If it's just a little bit, you might be able to just give it time and see if it reabsorbs. But if you have lye pockets and like a clear liquid that's test with a high pH, you're going to know that you have lye pockets and you need to take care of that. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about a lot is the ZAP test. That's where you take a little bit of soap and you put it on your tongue, and if it zaps, then it's lye heavy. I do not recommend doing the ZAP test. For one thing, if you put a lye heavy soap on your tongue, you can end up with a lye burn on your tongue, and I can't imagine that would be any fun at all. And not to mention that, but the, you know, good manufacturing practices, things like that, it's not something that you really need to be doing. So I'm going to go over exactly how to do this correctly. Okay, so let's start with just how to make the solution that we need. Okay, we need a solution to correctly test our pH. Like the solid soaps that we have, it's not a solution, it's a hard bar. Like if you take a strip, you're not going to get an accurate reading if you try to work up a lather. And I know it can kind of pinpoint it a little bit, but there's too many variables in trying to work up a lather and testing the lather. Okay, so you want to make a soap solution, and there is a place on called the ASTM International, which stands for the American Society for Testing Materials. They have published standards on how to do this correctly. Okay, so what they have set up as the standards is that you boil distilled water. It's always distilled for testing pH. And what you want to do, what the boiling does, is actually releases some of the carbon dioxide. And then you want to have a 1% soap solution. So if you have 99 grams of water, distilled water, you need 1 gram of soap. And what I do for this is after I boil the water down, the standards that they have set say it should be around 158 degrees when you mix it in your solution. And then when you actually test your pH, it should be around 104 degrees. Okay, because you don't want to be sticking, especially like this, you don't want to be putting that in some really hot water that can damage your instrument. As I will talk about this a little bit more too, because there's a lot to using one of these indicators, okay? So then right here in this one I have just plain water. This is just going to be, you know, so we have that variable. This is just plain water. We know exactly what's going on, okay? And then this one is a soap that I made quite a few months ago, and I just shaved off some pieces and I melted it in the distilled water. And this soap is a soap, coconut oil soap that I made this morning, and it is made with a little bit extra lye, just so that I can show you the difference in how this works, okay? So, and I didn't want this to go to waste at all, so this will actually become laundry soap. I use a little bit extra lye, so that's, you know, it's a 0% super fat. You don't ever want to have excess oil in your laundry soap, but this will get grated up and can get mixed into the washing soda and the borax for laundry. Okay, so this is my lye heavy, and this is the regular soap that's about 8 to 10, and this is our neutral water. Okay, so I want to talk about this. When you buy an indicator, a pH indicator like this, it is a very special instrument that needs care. So this is the container that it comes with, and you want to make sure that you store it in the proper solution. This bulb down here, I don't know, can you see that? This bulb down here, you do not want that to get dried out. Okay, so you want to leave it sit upright in the solution that it that the manufacturer suggests, okay? Because if it gets dried out, it will not work. Okay, and you can reuse those solutions quite a bit. But first, I'm curious about these two over here, so we'll start with this. Now, this here is the neutral, and we'll see if that does anything with that. Huh, it's not really doing a whole lot. It's almost kind of turning green, which it shouldn't. Well, that's interesting. Let's try this one over here. That one's very green. So this should be blue, but it's not. So that's interesting. They're both green, but this one is a little bit lighter. It's almost a more yellowish green. Alrighty then. Let's try the turmeric solution. Well, I'm going to use this inside of here too, because I want to see that, but I just wanted to see what it would do if you actually put it on the soap. Okay, that didn't change at all. Wow, look at that. That's bright red. Bright red for the soap that is lye heavy. So for me, using the red cabbage would not be as reliable. I would go with the turmeric if that is what you were going to be doing. Very interesting. Look at that. That's your turmeric. It turned bright red. But yeah, that's the red cabbage went green there and green there. So that's very interesting to me. I would I would not use red cabbage as a reliable pH test indicator. But I wanted to try it. I had never done it. I know that they use it. But yeah, you can see there that I got the difference. Pull that up. Yep. This soap is months old too. Months old. And this one was just made today, so there's really no significant difference. There's a little bit of yellowing around that, but the turmeric one, just putting it on there, made a huge difference between that and the red. Okay. So, just so we know what the distilled water is, I'm going to do the pH with the strips next. Now this is a 7. Kind of, well, it's almost a little bit, kind of almost in between. It's pretty close, right there. Okay. So we will test the soap that's been made a long time ago. We're going to test this soap solution with that. And remember, we want our soaps to be around 9 to 10 is going to be pretty much average here, okay? So, that is about, about right at 10, right on there with these strips. For the soap that's been made months ago. So let's see what the Lye Heavy soap comes up at. Yep, it's gonna be bright. I'd put it, this came up to about 11, almost between 11 and a 12. Yeah, about between 11 and 12 with the pH test strip for that. I've had pretty good luck with these Machery Nagel ones that I've been using for a long time. These have always been pretty reliable for me. Okay, when you use your pH indicator, you're going to have to go through the instructions and you're going to have to calibrate it with the different solutions that comes with it, okay? And you always want to use distilled water to rinse it off in between. Okay? And make sure, like I said, that when you're done with this that you store it. Okay? So that's pretty good. This is coming up at a little bit over 10, 10.5 on the meter here. And that's for the soap that's been made, quite a few months ago. So after you've done that, you want to rinse it off with distilled water so it doesn't affect any other testing that you do. Okay. So this is going in the Lye Heavy soap. And let's see, wait for it to... What I like about this test meter is got a little smiley face when it's done reading it. It's like, I'm done. Okay, this came up at a 12 on here with the meter. Alrighty. So there you have it. Those are my results. Even over time, look at, this has been sitting here. It's become, the cabbage became more yellow on the Lye Heavy one, and it's still green on the soap that's been made a long time ago. So that's very interesting to me. I was expecting the blue and the blue and the green. So yeah, okay. Just I'm curious. I want to see what happens when we put the red cabbage in here. And it's green. The red cabbage turned the soap that came up at a 10 green. Yep. So even with the soap solution, it's still green. So yeah, I would not recommend using the red cabbage. Okay. I am going to go rinse these and come back and we'll do some more testing. And I also want to go over using phenolphthalein, the 1% solution there, because that's something that I know a lot of soapers use. And I want to talk about that too. So I will be back in a couple minutes with some fresh solution in there. Alright, so let's talk about the phenolphthalein, the 1% solution. Do remember that this is very dangerous, flammable. You do not want to get this on your skin, in your eyes. You don't want to get this on, anything. Always wear gloves when you're using this. And I know a lot of people, when they do a hot process soap, they want to test it to see if the pH is good and it's done cooking. And what I tell people is that you really don't need to worry about it when you're cooking hot process soap. For one, unless your recipe is completely off, it will finish cooking in the mold and finish neutralizing in the mold. Because if you overcook your hot process soap until you get like a neutral reading, your soap is going to be overcooked. It's going to have, bits of dried soap in it. So I don't recommend doing that, okay? You don't need to worry about it, okay? So I would worry about it later when you're testing your soaps. You want to make sure you don't, like, if you test a brand new soap, yeah, you're going to get a different reading than if you test a cured soap like I'm showing you here. But I wanted to show phenolphthalein is really not the best indicator because one of the main things is that it is it's said to only be able to read and change color after 8.2, and then it'll become a darker pink color at 9.8. So, and we know that our soaps are about 8 to 10 pH anyway. So this is going to be a little bit harder to tell. This is what the research says. So I'm going to show this and see what this does. So I'm going to add this just to the water just so we can get a baseline. Okay, and that shouldn't do anything in the water because it's below the mark. So since this is a 10, a little bit higher than 10, we'll see what this does to this. Okay, so this is a safe soap that looks this dark pink. Okay, so that is one of the biggest things. The issues with using phenolphthalein is because this is a safe pH, and look at the color in that. Okay, so let's see how dark it gets with the Lye Heavy. So I don't know if you can see, I think it does look it's a little bit darker. So this is the, if I can hold that right. This is the Lye Heavy, and this on the left here is the regular good pH for soap. So this is why phenolphthalein is unreliable testing. You're going to get a darker pH darker color for the higher pH, but it might be harder to tell from the eye. Okay, let's do. Let me try this on here and let's see what we get. Okay, that didn't change at all on this soap here. That has been made a long time ago. So let's do. That reacted with that. But and again, this is why you want to use a soap solution rather than trying to test on bars. Okay. So I hope this kind of explained it a little bit. I want to, you know, just give you your options for testing. The biggest thing is you want to make a soap solution to get the most accurate reading. I would go with the turmeric over the red cabbage. And, you know, I would, I don't know, I like using the indicator. I like, you know, how that works. It's simple. It just gives you the reading right off. The pH test strips, these have worked very well for me. And, you know, just make sure that you make a solution. And, you know, and friends don't let friends lick soap. So, you know, hey, you're my friends, so don't lick soap. So I hope this was very informative to you. You know, see, look at over, this has already changed where that landed. It is now bright pink on that soap in there. So, yeah, so the phenolphthalein is unreliable. The test strips are going to work very well if you have a solution, and so will the indicator. So that's all I have for you for this video. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. If you've used the red cabbage and you've gotten better results than that, let me know.